Welcome everyone to another edition of Broadcasting on the Beach with Halftime Howie, and sitting next to me is Oceanside resident, 19 years old, Scotty Brugaris. And Scotty, you are aiming to be the first MMA fighter out of Oceanside, New York. Talk about your dream to become Oceanside's first MMA fighter.
Well, I mean, it all started off in karate at Challenge Self-Defense Centers in Baldwin, and ever since then, I've been working hard. I sacrificed all the extracurricular activities to put my time into karate, and after my first semester of college, I got my black belt, and right before I got my black belt, I started training at Weidman Gym for a year. Weidman was the biggest inspiration in my MMA career. What he's done, how he's from Long Island, and how I had the opportunity to train at a gym and expand my horizons in the martial arts.
That's cool. So talk about taking that step to actually becoming an MMA fighter. How does that happen?
Well, I mean, it all starts with that first day of training. You set your plans, you set your goals. Majority of people who go there have backgrounds. Some of them start off fresh. Like some fighters didn't start fighting until they were 22 and whatnot. Some of them came with no background and they made it to the big screen. I feel very blessed and lucky to have an amazing background, have my senseis help me and to help me get to where I'm at now. And if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be where I'm at now, as well as my parents' support as well. I mean, my parents are a little held back in the MMA career, but they just want me to be happy.
All right, now MMA has become so popular, but this fight with McGregor against Mayweather has taken it to a new level. Everyone in the world is talking about McGregor and Mayweather. Talk about, as someone who wants to get into MMA, how excited are you for this fight?
I couldn't be more excited. It's pretty much putting the UFC on the map and making more recognizable like boxing, and potentially the UFC can make as much money like boxing does, as well as many other MMA fighters will become more recognizable. That can make a big impact on the UFC.
Well, we broadcast here on the South Shore, and we represent Long Beach, Island Park, but talk about how Chris Weidman from Baldwin, the town next to Oceanside, has been your inspiration. The fact he's made it as a high school kid from Baldwin High School to be a world champion. How has Chris inspired you?
Well, I mean, he stands out from many wrestlers, many other fighters, and I kind of see myself in that position too. Like, I have a very rare background. Karate is not really a common thing in the UFC. It's more like Muay Thai, BJJ, kickboxing, boxing, all those other like basic combat sports. And karate is like a very rare background that's not seen in the UFC very often, and my karate school especially. Nobody from my karate school has ever been to the UFC or boxing or anything like that.
So that's awesome, and I believe you're training with his trainer. Talk about that. You had that Longo, right?
Yeah, Longo.
Yeah, Ray Longo, right?
Yes, Ray Longo. He's been very supportive of me since I've been coming to the gym. He knows what I'm capable of, and he knows my karate instructor as well. He's heard about him fighting. Some of the fighters, and some fighters that fought at a Belmore Kickboxing Academy as well.
Okay. Now, this would be exciting because we broadcast right here in Island Park. Oceanside's the next town over, so we're kind of excited because we kind of feel like we're discovering a local kid at the very zenith, at the very beginning, and it would be kind of cool if you keep coming on the show and become famous, and all of a sudden we could have a ton of people here to see you. So I think it's kind of exciting that we met today at the MMA headquarters in Rockville Center.
Yeah, I think that's awesome, and not to mention my team, my town, they support me and so much, and I couldn't have asked for anything better. Their support is what keeps me going and what makes me feel like, it makes me realize what I'm capable of and whatnot.
Talk about what in your mind you think it would take to become a great MMA fighter. What would it take to really be not just a fighter, but a great fighter, a guy that's fighting for champions? What would it take in your mind?
Well, I mean, standing out like Conor McGregor and Chris Weidman and a few other fighters can take part in it, but like just consistency, taking chances and sacrificing, but yet putting in the time for it.
And I can tell you're totally dedicated, devoted. The workouts, the training, you got to have that total focus to really make it to the next level.
Yeah, like when it first came to my mind that I wanted to compete. You know, I started telling people, and all of a sudden it started getting around. I'm like, wow, I'm getting this such support in such little time before I'm even starting. Like, it's amazing. And not to mention my karate instructor is not letting me test for second-degree black belt without my first fight, which is reasonable and understandable.
Okay. Talk about an MMA fighter. It's called mixed martial arts for a reason. You have to be good at boxing, wrestling. You know, you got to be able to do it all. Talk about the fact that you really have to be really great in a lot of different things.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, that's what makes the MMA sport so big. You know, it's different styles. It's not just like focused on one sport. It's focused on many different varieties of martial arts, which I'm interested in. And not to mention, I started learning different martial arts ever since I started coming to Chris Weidman's gym, and stepped up my overall game. And not only as a fighter, but like to become an MMA fighter, like I'm feeling the improvement already.
Talk about the wrestling format, because you know I had Chris Weidman on my show back when it was, you know, I did high school sports, and he was a state champion wrestler at Baldwin High School. So his wrestling background has become huge in his MMA success. Talk about what experience you've had with wrestling so far.
I never did wrestling in high school. I mean, I do regret it a little bit, but at the time I was really focusing on karate and, you know, excelling in it, 'cause I did struggle in karate at one point, but I pushed through, and I didn't let anything get in my way, and I definitely did not want to give up on it, and not to mention the amount of sports I sacrificed for it, and I feel I could do the same with MMA and the ground game, you know.
So you feel having the karate background will help tremendously, and the wrestling is something that by just going to the gym constantly, you'll like grow into it.
Yeah, I'll definitely grow into it, you know. And not to mention, I've learned a lot of aspects from Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu that have impacted me tremendously, not only in my game, but like in regular life in general, like in different life circumstances. And, you know, I'm looking forward to excel in an amazing art like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or Judo and whatnot, you know, because those are unique arts and very important in the MMA world. You know, I don't want to be that guy that gets tapped out automatically going to the ground.
Right. I mean, it's just an intense sport. You could be dominating in one mistake where your opponent catches you off guard in a quick move. You could be tapped out in seconds. You could, in just with a matter of seconds, can change.
Oh yes, most definitely. You know, there have been many instances with that kind of stuff in like UFC and MMA, like when Rockhold was pressuring Bisping, and Bisping caught him at the right time and knocked the wind out of him, and he knocked him out. And like Robbie Lawler and Tyron Woodley, where Lawler was sitting back and not moving the way he's supposed to, and Woodley capitalized on it and he knocked him out with one punch. You know, that stuff happens, you know. That's why it's an on-the-spot thing. Like, anything could happen, like, you don't expect it to. You know, it's just a matter of what mistake you mistake at a certain time, and then you get caught at the wrong moment and then you lose, you know. It's very common.
Absolutely. Now, Scott, let's talk about your immediate plan. I believe you mentioned earlier you're going away to college. How will that affect your immediate career? Will you still be able to work out and train? Obviously, you won't have the Weidman gym here in Long Island, but how will that affect your immediate career going away to school?
Well, I mean, I already got my first year of college out of the way, so it's not really a big deal anymore. You know, I couldn't really do a lot when I first came to school, but now that I'm settled in and I got my first year out of the way, I'll be able to train. Not to mention, I have a jiu-jitsu academy like 30 minutes away from me, and I feel that before my fight, I should be focusing on the ground and jiu-jitsu more, because I have a lot of knowledge and with my stand-up game, and I feel like I'm confident with it, but my ground game needs some work. But I feel like if I only go to a jiu-jitsu academy, that could up my game really fast and quickly and efficiently. And, you know, not to mention, there are plenty of guys in the MMA or UFC who are blue belts and have a lot of knowledge, so I feel if I just get that knowledge under my belt, then I'll be fine.
Okay, awesome. So you're 19 years old, from Oceanside, New York. When can we expect Scotty Bugaris to be an MMA fighter?
Well, I mean, I plan on training throughout this semester. Hopefully I can get a fight after that. You know, I have the opportunity to train this year. But if not, we can expect it after the fourth semester where I'm home at the gym. You know, either or, I'm cool with it. I'm okay. You know, as long as I get the fight under my belt, that's all that matters.
So you feel in the next year or so we're going to see Scotty in the MMA hexagon, what's it called?
Octagon.
Octagon. We're going to see Scotty Bugaris in the octagon within a year or so.
Yes. You know, my coaches, they wanted me to, you know, they want me to get started. They want me to get going. You know, I got a lot going on with school, but I'm definitely going to make time for it. And one thing they admire from me the most is my commitment towards the gym. You know, I'm looking to get started as well as they are, and I'm definitely going to put the time into it to make it happen.
Now, I think it's cool that we met you now, and as you get close to that first fight, we want you to come back on the show and maybe have a whole packed crowd of friends and supporters, and push you on your way. And we're kind of like the idea of being involved in your journey.
Yeah, I mean, Ray Longo was excited for me to come back to the gym this summer. You know, he really wants me to get started with fighting, but, you know, he had a lot going on with Chris's fight, John's fight, and Aljamain's fight. You know, it's understandable. You know, he's a busy man. He's got a lot on his plate, and, you know, I'm just willing to do it whenever I have the opportunity to, whether it's this winter or next summer. You know, I will take either chance, whether which one I have. And honestly, I wouldn't have made it this far without the support of my friends, my family, and a bunch of other people I know, like from Baldwin and stuff, you know.
All right, so Scotty, we're going to follow you on your journey, and we're excited for you. We know that you got a great background, you're hard worker, you're dedicated, and we definitely see you in the MMA in the not-too-distant future.
Yes, sir.
All right, Scotty Rugaris.